Let's take a closer look at the Black Series 6-inch figure of Obi-Wan Kenobi Jabiim outfit from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Villa Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch figure of Obi-Wan Kenobi Jabiim outfit from the Obi-Wan Kenobi live action series. This week is Ewan McGregor's birthday, so we are celebrating his contribution to the Star Wars galaxy and of course the Obi-Wan Kenobi series by opening up some Obi-Wan related collectibles. So today I'm taking a closer look at this Jabiim version of Obi-Wan from the live action series on Disney Plus. As you can see, this was released during the period of time where Hasbro was doing plastic-free packaging, so there is no window. So I haven't seen this figure inside yet. I'm very keen to open it up and take a closer look because all we have are these images here on the packaging. So before I open it up, we'll take a closer look at the artwork and details of this box. I am glad Hasbro has returned back to the windows, and of course, as we saw in their recent fan stream, we're going to be getting even slightly bigger windows with the new series of Black Series figures, starting with the figures for the Acolyte series. I'm very excited to see the packaging in hand for those, but let's get back to this one. On the front, we've got that soft matte black with the Black Series logo up the top, and we have a gloss image of the figure. You can see it's very shiny, which is kind of fun, but honestly, I do prefer the windows. For the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, we have this lovely blue color, very reminiscent of his lightsaber. We can see Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi as the title for this particular Black Series line, and Obi-Wan Kenobi Jabiim, because of course we do see him in a different outfit in lots of different episodes there. There's a couple of different versions of him. Now we have this really nice artwork down the side, of course. We can see here at the top we've got a little bit of a preview of the Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight there behind him. And here we have him with two hands on his lightsaber, and here he is in his outfit like we see here on the front. We can see all the colors of his tunics and robe there. Of course, moving down into that lovely blue color, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi Jabiim in nice, clear, readable text. Some of the colors they choose make the black text here a little harder to read. That's very nice and clear, so I do like that. On the back, we have that color stripe continuing. We can see that this particular figure is number 11 from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series line of Black Series figures. We have a little bit of a blurb up here, but it's more about the series than the figure itself. Obi-Wan Kenobi is set years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi faced the corruption of his friend and Jedi apprentice, Anakin Skywalker turned Sith Lord Darth Vader. So it's basically telling us more about Revenge of the Sith than about the series itself. It's set after episode 3. That's all this blurb really tells us. And we can see we have another glossy image of the figure posed holding a lightsaber there on the back of the box. A lot of copyright and attention details here, and of course the barcode and everything on the bottom. On the side, because they're trying to be helpful, we can see this really big block of text noting it is plastic-free packaging, and we have a little bit of a graphic here showing the figure and the accessories inside. Now this is one particular detail I do like. It does help me remember which accessories came with which. Once I've got all the figures out and loose, I'm always worried that I'll mismatch a blaster or something from my figures, so we've got a nice clear image of the figure inside, a blaster, a lightsaber, and it also tells us the approximate measurement of the figure inside, 5.9 inches or 14.9 centimeters in height there, because you can't really tell the scale if you are new to Black Series collecting. You don't really know how big the figure inside is, so that's a little bit helpful there. So that is the outer packaging for this particular Obi-Wan Kenobi Jabiim Black Series figure. Now it's time to open it up and take a closer look at the figure itself. So now I have opened up the outer packaging, and we can see we have a cardboard tray with a little bit of a mummified figure here and some accessories and a little paper envelope off to the side. So this is what packaging looks like inside of that plastic-free packaging windowless box if you've never opened up one of these Black Series before. So just going to take out the little envelope with the accessories. So there should be, according to the box, a lightsaber and a blaster in here. You can kind of see them through that tissue paper there. And then we've got the figure itself wrapped up in Black Series branded tissue paper, held in place with these little cardboard straps here. So I'm just going to go through and try and cut these out so we can take that figure out. So it's kind of fun and a little bit tricky. Got that one open, and then see if we can get in here. Here we go. And we can take the figure out. Just going to put that packaging out of the way. It's kind of funny, they look a little spooky or wrapped up in tissue paper like this. So let's take our very first look. So here's Obi-Wan, shrouded in his dark soft goods cloak there. A little bit dusty from the factory. Very keen to take a closer look at all of these details of this figure inside. It's kind of fun getting your first look at these figures when they've been wrapped up in a box. And we've got some hood action going on here. A little bit puffy, but yes, that is part of the thing of reducing hoods down to action figure scale. Got some really fun detail to take a look at here. Lots going on. Lots of browns and yeah, a lot of details. Very cool. Okay, I'll be working through him in a moment. I'm just going to open up the other little paper packet. They seal these up, which is nice. You're not going to have anything kind of falling out accidentally. Just got to open that up. And let's see. We've got a tiny little blaster there. Some fun metallic paint on that. And the other accessory is Obi-Wan's saber. So this one has a peg, so we're going to take a look and see how well this is going to go on his belt, and that should mean that the blade will come out as well, because some figures come with a separate hilt and then a fully lit blade, so you've got two, and others they come with this kind of split, so it's basically the same thing and you can pose it either way. I kind of prefer it if we got two, so that when the character is posing the saber, they don't have this peg sticking out of it. It's a little bit awkward. You kind of have to try and rotate it so it's not really visible in the angle that you've decided to pose it in, because that's not really an accurate part of a lightsaber there. Of course, if you're going to just put it on the belt, then that's very helpful. While I'm here, let's just see how, okay, that was a very easy one to pop out. So you can see the peg there and the hole inside here. And that should just be, that's actually one of the easier ones I've come across to removing the blade. And this is a really nice blue, very well ties in with the blue of that packaging, of course. So pop those accessories to the side. Let's take a look at the main event, the Obi-Wan Kenobi figure. Jabiim version. So figures always tend to have a little bit of wonky ankles when I first get them out of the box. It does take a little bit of, finessing to make them look at least a little bit more straighter than normal. So I'm kind of curious. I'm going to review him a bit with the cloak on, and then I might actually try and slip it off because it doesn't have sleeves. That might be a little bit easier to do. Sometimes the soft goods, it looks like it would be an absolute wrestle to take off. But I might actually try and do that for this one because I don't think that's going to be too hard. You can already see it. You can take it off his shoulders fairly easily. But let's take a closer look at the figure as kind of packaged with his cloak on. I like the feeling of this fabric. And the hood. The first thing I notice is that it's actually got a few stitches kind of on the shoulders, so it kind of wants to sit. If I sort of do a little bit of posing and finessing, sorry, there's just a little bit of dust and stuff like that, it kind of sits quite well on his shoulders, really. That's kind of fun. Sometimes hoods just look like this huge big ball of fabric over them. Some of them out there have like a little bit of wire, so you can get like a really good sort of pose going on. This one's not a bad sort of technique to get that, and sort of playing around, you can kind of pull it down a little bit. That's quite nice. Of course, it still looks kind of a bit big in the back, but it's certainly not as bad as some I've seen. We've got a few sort of little darts in here to reduce the volume as well. And that top seam that runs up to the center there. Very nice. So if we pull that back, we can see Obi-Wan's face. Of course, I'm very used to looking at prequel Obi-Wan figures. This one is, you know, the new live action series Obi-Wan, a little bit older. So we've got some really interesting sculpting here. He's got a little bit more creases on his forehead, looking a little bit older. His hair is a little bit darker, I think, than some of the other Obi-Wan figures I have seen. Now, looking here, it looks like the hair is a separate sculpted piece that has been attached. So it gives us a very clean line around the forehead there. And we can see it sort of flows into longer hair there in the back, which is really quite nice. I think there's, I don't know if it's just the lighting or whether there is like a wash or something to really highlight this deep grooves in the hair. That's really playing with my eyes. I think it's all just painted. I think that's just really deep grooves in the hair that's giving us those shadows. That's really interesting. That's really nice. I like, you know, some hair just looks really flat, like you know, Lego hair. There's a lot of nice deep sculpting lines. So from the beard, there's a lot of detail here in the sculpting on the beard as well. Doesn't just look painted on. That's a thick beard there for Obi-Wan. Really nice. And I find Ewan McGregor in particular, his likeness just translates well into toys. I know Hasbro has improved over the years since The Phantom Menace, but still, that's a pretty good likeness. It really does look like Ewan McGregor. That's really nice. Cool. And nice tidy paint there. Those really tiny eyes. Very nicely painted there. Okay, so let's move down. I'm just going to tuck the cloak out of the way so we can look at the tunic underneath a little bit. So this is a darker color robe than we're used to seeing. You know, Obi-Wan wears very pale, light side inspired robes in the prequels. And because Obi-Wan, the series, is a little bit of a darker toned, you know, many of the figures are referred to as the Dark Times versions, you know, because this is when the Empire is taken over and, you know, most of the Jedi have been hunted down and killed. So I like the really sort of darker Jedi tunic here. And it's sculpted kind of really interesting. We've got a lot of little lips. It's not just sculpted. This has actually got some little cuts into it, which really accents all these crosses of fabric there. That's really nice. It's giving us just a little bit more depth because Jedi tunics are generally worn nice and snug across the chest. They can look quite flat and a little bit plasticky in some figures. We've got a lot of detail going on here on the belt. We've got his sort of buckle with a leather strap and all those tiny little domes are painted. We've got a pouch here. We've got a holster, which I'll be very keen to check out for that blaster. Lifting up the cloak in the back. It doesn't look like we've got anything else there, just the rest of the belt. But then look again here. These are some really deep sculpting lines for that tunic in the back, which is really nice. We can see the sort of the gathering of the fabric and how that's all held there, and for the most part that's going to be covered by the cloth. I'm really liking that. And we've got a split here, and I can see that sort of seam line across the top of the thigh, so we can get some rotation there. It's all tucked all the way in there. It'll be interesting to see how well we can pose because this is fairly stiff plastic. We can see some of the leg sculpting here. Again, lots of ripples, and I have to say I am liking the pant sculpt here. I can't even see any pegs. This is really nice. That is almost completely disappearing in the folds of his pants. I've just got a little bit here in the back where you can see that hinge. Oh, that's really nice. From the front, the ripples of the pants, that sculpting is almost completely obscuring where that seam line is for the articulation in the knees. And more deep folds here, and we can clearly see where the tabards are because they're sculpted so much sort of raised. These are such deep edges, and I can really feel that sculpted above the tunic. It's giving him almost a bit of a windswept appearance, the way this is kind of moving. like it's getting caught in the wind. Oh, that's just really nice to see. Then moving down, we've got his shorter boots. He's not wearing, you know, he's kind of transitioning. We've got a little bit of a Jedi tunic going on here, but these look like, you know, shorter ankle boots. And we've got wrappings that go up, sort of halfway up his leg to sort of cover the tops of his boots. And again, we've got some nice sculpting here to kind of hide that transition for that ankle join there. Whoops. Here on the other side as well. Because I don't know if you can see, it's really small. There's like a sculpting line. It's very common on leather boots, the sculpting line where it transitions from sort of the shoe shape into the part that goes up the leg. And there's these little lines cutting around here. And it actually continues up on this ankle piece. Now that is crazy to me. They've continued that. When I click the ankle into the right spot, those seams continue on. Really enjoying that. That's really nice. Oh, it's just so exciting when you get your first look at one of these blind boxed figures, and it is just, oh, better than you were expecting. I'm enjoying this. Okay, so let's take a close look at his soft goods before I take it off, and we can take a closer look at his sleeves because they're a little bit obscured here. So the robe, if I just stand up, there we go. You can see it doesn't quite touch the ground. It's nice and fitted. It's all sort of one piece. We've got raw edges around, but the fabric that they are using here, if you are really rough with it, you might sort of fuzzy up the edges, but this is actually nice and clean out of the box. It doesn't look like it's going to fray, or sometimes you get those little fluffy bits that kind of come off if you handle it too much. This feels quite nice. Obviously, I need to tweak that hood a little bit better. But I like that you can still sort of see his face in there. And then from the back, it's kind of a little bit more fitted than a classic Jedi cloak. It sort of fits closer to his body. All one panel here at the back. Looking at the shoulders, there's no seam here. Just a little bit of sewing intrigue here. So this is all one piece. There isn't a seam across the shoulders. So this is all kind of sewn fairly simplistically. We've just got a side seam down here and then the hood that's sewn on the top. So nice and quick in the factory. But that really does, it just looks cool. I think that's, yeah, I'm really liking this figure. Okay, so let's twist his arms back a little bit and see how well we can take the cloak off, because you know Obi-Wan's got to do that cool dropping the cloak move like he does in episode 3. Of course, I'm a little bit more clumsy than Obi-Wan here. Let's see. There we go. Now we can take a full look, pop that there with his other accessories, at all of the sculpting of this amazing tunic. That's crazy. This looks really nice. We can see like the sort of the sash underneath his belt. It even looks wrinkled and sort of gathered underneath the leather belt. We can see, if I move his arm up out of the way, we can see his holster here has, is that a peg? Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Okay. Look, there is a tiny, I'm saying look, but I need to move it myself. There is a tiny little peg here to close that flap, that top strap down over the, that's crazy. There's like a tiny little peg hole to attach this down over it to secure that blaster there. Wow, that's really nice. Cool. Okay, so from the front, we've got some, you know, a little bit visible in terms of the articulation there, but I do appreciate when the sculpting, especially for Jedi tunics that have that really sort of heavy draped sleeve, we've got the sculpting falling back over the elbow here, and just look at the ripples here. And the whole thing has a sort of a soft all over texture of fabric. It kind of has, you know, a fabric grain to it, which is really nice. It doesn't look like just a flat, shiny plastic. You can see it along some of these high points when the light catches it. That's so cool. And then, yeah, the wrinkles on this one, that's really neat. It just looks like, you know, like a bunched up sleeve when he's holding something. Sits up a little bit high if you put his hand up, but if it's down, you know, it looks like a sleeve. Actually, that looks a little bit better with his elbows rotated just a little bit in. That hinge kind of hides in there just a little bit. Normally, I like to keep sleeves sculpted very straight, but that doesn't actually look too bad, tucking that in just a little bit. So you get all that wonderful sleeve draping on the outside there, and it's all being a little bit bunched on the inside. I wonder if the other side does that too. Yeah, that looks really nice. The hinge is just a little bit there, and the other side is tucked in there, and then we get this really cool fabric draping and sculpting, and it's sort of draping over the back of his hand there. This is just fantastic. Oh, it's such a shame that this was all hidden behind cardboard. If I'd known what this figure looked like in person, oh, now I've got to go open up all the rest of my blind box figures, because this has been hiding behind that cardboard all this time. This is really cool. So let's play around with the articulation that we've got here. So I notice these are quite dropped shoulders here. That's a really slant, and you can sort of see the sculpting. It's fairly wide around here, but this, I get the feeling this is going to stop the shoulders from going up very high at all. I think, is that really as high as they're going to go on the sides? Oh, that one's stopping there. Yeah, I cannot, don't want to risk that. That one's not really, I can get a little bit of rotation, but that one's, there's something stopping it. And I feel like I'm doing that in the right, yeah, that's as high as that one's going to go. So there are some limitations to the sculpting, unfortunately, but I kind of figured that because these are such sloped shoulders, you're going to have to cut into that articulation to make his arms go up any further. And it might look a little odd if you were going to try and pose his arms straight up with soft goods anyway. Soft goods just don't handle wild poses. They just bunch up and look weird. So I can still get a little bit of rotation forward and back. A little bit more towards the back. I can get to about there forward, all the way to there going back. So I think most of the posing you're going to get is from his lower arms. If I just click, and even bent, the sculpting on the sleeves is still looking really nice. So yes, can't get some really high armed poses. I like the draping here on the back. That just looks really cool. And then his hair, we've got some nice articulation here. His hair is going to stop at the back there, so it's not going to tip back because he's got that long hair. And you can pose just a little bit downward, but mostly just side to side. Very free, very nice. And he does have, I move his arms out of the way. Nice and easy. Holds this position nicely. It doesn't want to spring back. Very nice. And you can see if I just move his arms up out of the way a little bit, you can see just how deep we get here underneath the Jedi tabards, really creating that sort of shadow and depth against, you can see the side of his body, and then these tabards creating this big shadowy area underneath. It's really nice. And looking, if I can get his arm out of the way, it looks like a section of, you know, plastic laid over it that looks like two separate pieces. It's hard to see because it's so tucked in there. That's really nice. Okay, so he's got two different hand poses. This one has got a bit more of a trigger finger, but we do have a blaster to try out, and this one is a bit more of a classic grip there. Doesn't have the extended finger that this one does, so we'll try a blaster in here, and then I'll pop it away in the holster, and then we'll try a lightsaber. So the box for this one depicts Obi-Wan holding his lightsaber with two hands. Sometimes the sculpting of the chest means you can't quite get their hands to come together to grasp a lightsaber hilt. We'll try that one out. I'm not hopeful, to be honest, that I'm going to get a lot of leg articulation. This is quite thick plastic. and even thicker in the back. You can kind of see the cross section of the plastic here. But we've got that rotation. I can turn the legs out with that joint in the upper thigh. It's a bit creaky, but yep, it does work. And here, I've got to see that line a bit better there. That one's nice. Okay, and then let's see. How high can I get him to sit? Okay, it's going to tap out about there. And that's putting a fair amount of pressure on that front tabard section there. So I suppose there's a fair amount of movement there. But I doubt I would want to keep him so bent, because that's going to, I feel like that would sort of permanently deform the plastic here, because it feels like a very extreme angle. But let's check out his knees. I'm really liking the sculpting here. A little bit more visible when we bend them, but those were nice movements. You can see there, so we can get fully back that far. And, you know, out to the side, should we want to. I'm just going to click those back into place. They click very nicely. I feel like I can, just got to rotate his legs back there. And let's check out, very stiff ankles. I guess that's good. They will hold a pose nicely. Very stiff on that side. Very stiff. Okay. Golly. Wow, that's very stiff. Okay. He's just going to be standing a little bit flat-footed for my display. Those were quite stiff movements there. So, let's see if we can get him into a neutral standing pose and balance. There we go. So let's take a closer look at the accessories, because I'm curious. This gun looks really cool. And you hopefully can tell on camera there is a two-tone, and there is a silver grip with a really fine texture to it. I can see it on my eyes, but by golly, that is really small textured grip to the blaster, and the rest of it has a very sort of dark metallic finish to it. It's a little bit warmer than the silver. Some really nice detail here. Very small, but a nice clear little trigger there to see how well Obi-Wan's going to hold it. And like I showed before, very nice lightsaber hilt. We've got that sort of dark gunmetal with bright silver and some gold details there. Very nice. And that peg. So let's go in and try this one on his belt before I try any holding poses, because I'll probably leave it. Okay, so, yes, here is the full look at the belt. Plain there at the back. We've got a little bit of a attachment point here. It's painted in black and brown, the same color as the belt. Now, traditionally, this kind of style of prequel lightsaber attachments usually black. I don't know if that's supposed to be black. I guess I got to go back and watch the episode to see if I can catch Obi-Wan's belt and see if that's black. Generally, I'd think that that was black, but it's painted brown here, the same color as the belt, which is a little unusual. I just got to check to see if that's screen accurate or not. And then we've got the pouches on this side, just two pouches over here, and those tiny little buckles and little domes there. So let's try the pin in the holder there. Okay, presses in nicely. Whoops. So this would hide beneath his robes very nicely, or swing it forward. So this sits there if you want. It slipped in there, wasn't too tight. Very nice, looks good on the belt, but I'm going to test it out for poses. So I'm going to just attach that blade back in. It goes very nicely back in. So let's check out his blaster first. See, this looks like a small grip. That was not hard at all to put in his hand. So there we go. You can see his finger goes into the grip very nicely. It wasn't a thick, bulky one. I feel like Hasbro's done a really good job of improving the scale of blasters and things. There are certainly some oversized weapons for other figures. I really like the metallic finish on this. It's really nice. So I'm glad that he can hold that. Nice and easy. His finger fits into that little spot. That just goes in there so easily, which is nice. That just slots right in there. Nice. Okay, so let's try this tiny little holster. If I can move his arm out of the way a little bit. So there's this tiny little pig hole. I gotta flick that out of the way. Sorry for the angles. This is really quite a small little accessory in a small little holster here. I'm trying to work with all of my little angles here. Okay, this is a little bit more fiddly than getting it in his hands. Okay, let's see. Can I slide it in from the top if I get this out of the way? How well are you going to go in there? I feel like there's a section of the gun that's not going to go all the way in, which seems a shame. Sorry, I'm trying here. This is a little bit of a tighter fit. I was kind of hoping that because it felt a little bit smaller that it was going to go in all the way. It's kind of a tight fit. I think I got it in there. And I'm just going to see if I can close this. Oh, can I get it in? I can get it in. Wow, okay. There we go. We've got that tiny little strap into the pig hole over the blaster in there. Wow, that is not going to come out by accident. But that's nice. That looks really good. That doesn't look like a massive oversized blaster or something like that. That looks very in scale with the rest of the figure. Very nice. A little bit of a fiddle to get in there, but that is a really nice little clasp mechanism. I was expecting, you know, some of them just look like big rectangles to slot a plastic accessory on the belt. That is really, really nice. Okay, now, last accessory. Let's see how well he's going to hold on to his lightsaber here. So, hoping I can wriggle it past his fingers. Actually, I need to rotate his hand a little bit. Which way? His cloak is very close to his hand, so I'm just trying to get it wriggled past. I might just take that blade out, actually. I'll wriggle it past. It kind of wants to keep hitting into his sleeve if I'm trying to get it. It wants to hit here while I'm trying to get it into his hand. Gotta get it about there. That sleeve does come very close to his hand, and no matter which way there. Okay, now I've got it. There. Okay. There. Holds that reasonably well. The pig is a little bit visible that way. If I rotate it around, that looks better. Here we go. It's always an adventure opening up figures you've never seen before. Trying to figure out all the right angles and things like that. So I kind of wanted his hand to like rotate around a little bit so that it's flowing in line with the sleeve, but this just hits on the sleeve. So I kind of have to have his hand rotated just a little bit because it wants to pop out of his hand if I put it too close. So let's see if I can get just a little bit of a pose going. Oh, and I'm accidentally knocking that little pig out. There we go. So let's see. He's got some tight joins. There we go. It's a little bit more of a point out, and now let's see if we can even put his hands together like it's on the box. Maybe? I think that might take a little bit more wrestling, but I think I can get them together. He can definitely get his elbows in very tightly to the body. So I took a little bit of a break to finesse this pose, and yes, he can actually pose his lightsaber holding it with two hands like he does on the box. You can see it's a little bit of an angle there. He can get his elbows in nice and close to his sides there to really get that two-handed grip. So I think that is really quite cool. It's also a little bit easier if he's holding on to the sort of more of the pommel end of the hilt here, because of just the way his hands want to come very close into that sleeve sculpting. So we don't have quite as much flexibility around the bottom of the hand, but this one is nice and clean, and as you can see, he holds it very nicely. Two hands, looks really, really cool. And I know I should probably put his cloak back on, but this took a little bit of work, so I'm very excited that I could get him into this pose, and I will put some pictures in to show you what it looks like with the cloak on, because this just looks so cool. And I know he comes with a cloak, but sometimes it seems a shame to hide all of this amazing Black Series sculpted detail under that robe. I am just really, really impressed with this figure. I think it looks so cool. I love the painting, the sculpting on all of these Jedi robes. Just looks absolutely incredible. There's like such a movement here, and the texture gives a real feel of fabric. Hasbro is really upping their game with some of their Black Series figures. This is a really nice figure. I cannot wait to put him in my Obi-Wan Kenobi Black Series spot and start getting some of the other figures. Got to get some of those Inquisitors. I've got the Vader ready to put next to him. Really, really cool. I love this figure. That was a lot of fun. I know this was a long video, but there was so many details to go over, and I like having fun and enjoying the experience of opening my Star Wars figures. You know, this is about as close to playing with our toys as Star Wars collectors tend to get. You know, we like to pose them, have a bit of fun, and a bit of an adventure unboxing them for the first time. So thank you so much for coming on this unboxing adventure with me. I am really happy. This is a great figure. This has been the highlight of my day. This is a great figure. Thank you so much for watching. Check out our other videos for more Star Wars unboxings, including Black Series, Vintage Collection, Micro Galaxy Squadron, and lots more. And we've got heaps coming very shortly too. So do subscribe if you want to see more. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.